beauty is one of the most wasteful industries in the world. Most of things in beauty is not recyclable because the packaging is really small and recycling facilities cannot sustain that. There's so many chemicals and the chemicals breaks down the packaging. So take toothpaste, for example. Toothpaste is very high in acid and it will actually eat the packaging if it's made from paper or a biodegradable packaging. That's where my interest lies, is to find solutions of how do we make things more recyclable in the beauty industry.
As you know, I have a very clear mission with Building Green. And I know so many brilliant architects, interior designers, and contractors who do too. But they're still stuck working on projects that drain them, with clients who don't value what they bring. That's why we founded Market Your Architecture over a year ago. It's a marketing agency that helps mission-driven designers attract better clients, charge what they are worth, and finally build the kind of portfolio that reflects who they really are. If that sounds like the shift you need, there's a link in the description to marketyourarchitecture.com. And before we jump into the podcast, please rate and subscribe. It really helps me reach more people like you. In a world increasingly facing the challenges of climate change, with the Building Green podcast, we will dive deep into the intersection of architecture, design, urbanism, and environmental responsibility. I'm Ladina Schipf, your host. I've been an architect and building site manager for the past 10 years. During my studies at ETH in Switzerland, as well as in my working environment, I've had many touchpoints with sustainability, like many of you, I guess. I've also learned to question what I've been told, which is why I decided to go deeper into the topic and uncover what sustainability actually means. My mission is to highlight the transformative power of sustainable architecture, not just as a practice, but as a catalyst for broader societal change. Subscribe for more of our content and enjoy the show. Liz Olivier's career sounds like a glamorous movie script. Celebrity makeup artist, red carpets, Oscars prep, and I'm talking about celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio. But behind the scenes, she's on a mission to tackle one of beauty's biggest dirty secrets: waste. Originally from Namibia and now based in New York, Liz combines her expertise in beauty with her passion for sustainability, bringing circular economy principles into one of the world's most wasteful industries. In this episode, we dive into why a lipstick's packaging matters more than you think, how circular design can be profitable, and why Sephora should become a recycling company. Because in the end, the beauty industry's manufacturing challenges aren't so different from the design and building industry struggles with sustainable materials and waste. Liz, you have built a career. Most people wouldn't even know how to begin. How do you usually describe what it is that you do?
I feel very blessed to be able to be a makeup artist for a living. And I've done really well in New York City or in America, coming from Africa. I mean, it's a dream come true. And people are like, what are your dreams? I'm like, I kind of achieved it to some degree, And so what is next is, focusing on things that are my passion, which is sustainability in beauty and also in the environment. So this is why we are together today.
Before we go into the sustainability part, can you walk me a bit through how your day-to-day looks like as a makeup artist in New York?
As a makeup artist, I focus specifically on celebrities. I do red carpets. So I will get a celebrity ready for a press tour when they're advertising their new next film, or a director or producer. If the film gets nominated at all the awards, then we get all the way to the Oscars if it's a movie, and to the Golden Globes and Emmys if it's television. And then on the daily basis, I will wake up at 4 a.m., be ready for television on the 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. slot of like Good Day in New York. So we'll get the celebrities' hair and makeup done between 6 and 8 a.m., between 5 and 7 a.m. And we'll go straight in and work all day and do all the press tours, and then straight into the premiere. And usually it's for 2 days with the same person, and then it's on to the next person.
Wow, that's tough. So you mentioned you prepared celebrities for the red carpet. Have you ever worked with Leonardo DiCaprio?
I've worked with him a few times. Very intriguing person who is heavily invested in conservation in Africa. And why I was really excited to work with him, because I'm from Namibia, which has a big conservation efforts to conserve black rhinos, white rhinos, cheetahs, just wildlife in general, and also the oceans, and the San tribe, which is the oldest tribe in the world.
That's so cool that you get to talk about these things with him, because obviously he's a great example of someone using his voice or his influence to do something good in the field.
Usually when I work with celebrities, there's not a lot of conversation going on because we don't have a lot of time. And we work really fast. Everyone's low on sleep most of the time, or low on time. So there's just brief conversations, and I always try and slip in sustainability wherever I can to influence people around me to be more sustainable with their makeup or their beauty or just in their everyday life.
So you've worked with some of the most recognizable faces in the world. What did that teach you about the beauty industry? And where did you start seeing some of the cracks?
I think as a makeup artist in general, I can see all the waste. I study sustainability at MIT part-time, and also I'm part of the Trash Academy in New York, which means we dive deep into where our waste is going. And the more you increase your knowledge about sustainability and circularity of waste, you start to realize that beauty is one of the most wasteful industries in the world. Most of things in beauty is not recyclable because the packaging is really small, and the actually recycling facilities cannot sustain that. So the capturing mechanism that captures the plastic or the glass is way too big. Maybe a bottle of glass or a bottle of plastic, but not a foundation bottle that's this small. So that's where my interest lies, is to find solutions of how do we make things more recyclable in the beauty industry, not having so many components that are different materials. May it be a plastic cap on a glass bottle, be a plastic bottle with a plastic cap so it's more recyclable.
I recently saw an image on LinkedIn with like a lipstick. What you think it is and what it actually is was like 20 different parts made of different materials, screwed together, super difficult to recycle.
Yeah, and you should think of it as a pen. A pen has an inside with ink. There's a little metal mechanism with a spring so you can click your pen. So there's all these components in it. The same in beauty, and the pump, the pump mechanism, that has a spring in it with a plastic, goes into your glass bottle. So it's really thinking about on a manufacturing level, or on a packaging design level, what people can do to actually better design their products, because it really lies within manufacturing and design of new packaging, where we will really succeed, because that's where the most waste is.
So if we go into circular economy, can you break down what circular economy means for someone who has never heard of it or who's not really familiar with it?
In a beauty sense, for circular economy or economics, is just keeping material within the system of the economy, meaning avoiding landfill. So let's say you have your plastic tube or your tube of lipstick. How can we design that packaging so it is recyclable, so it doesn't go to landfill and gets repurposed? So companies like Valentino has done a really good job. Charlotte Tilbury. So what they have done is used existing packaging that looks beautiful lipstick, but they have now you can input the lipstick. So if it's empty, you just buy a refill instead of buying the whole component. So it's just reducing waste in that way. I'm not saying that's the answer, because of course in the end that is still going to landfill should you lose it or change to a different brand. But it's also thinking of, while we are reducing waste by 20% in packaging just by doing this, it is a step towards the future. I think of circularity as in not being like the number one person that does zero waste, but slowly moving in that direction every time you try and do something.
Have you heard of some exciting or promising materials in the industry?
Yeah, I love this company called Sway. There was actually a woman who worked in beauty. She went into research and created seaweed packaging. So this is more in fashion, but the Amazon packages you get that is made from bubble wrap are now made from seaweed and are completely biodegradable. To bring that then to beauty would be something really interesting to watch, to see what we can create that is biodegradable, so you can basically just either throw it in compost or in the trash. It's really hard with, just so everyone understands in beauty why it's so wasteful is because there's so many chemicals, and the chemicals breaks down the packaging. So take toothpaste, for example, which is a beauty product, but not the way we think of it, but toothpaste is very high in acid, and it will actually eat the packaging if it's made from paper or a biodegradable packaging. So it's then lining it with something that, yes, is plastic, but the rest of the packaging is maybe biodegradable. So it's, giving up a little bit to gain maybe a 50% foothold in sustainability or circularity of products, in the recycling process.
It's interesting. I recently had a podcast guest, an interior designer, and he also designs furniture. And he told me that in furniture, there's even solutions where you don't even have packaging. So it's so interesting to see how the different industries are evolving. And I recently watched a documentary, that Netflix documentary about Amazon Buy Now, where they talked about all the sales strategies that Amazon was optimizing all the time to make people buy more. But nobody ever talked about what happens with the things we buy. And I think an important point to talk about is also, we can maybe reduce the packaging of a plastic product that you would buy on Amazon. But here we're talking also about the hygienic aspect of a product that has to be protected, right?
Yeah, it's really hard in beauty because dealing with FDA regulations and returning something that's a beauty product that you have actually opened. That's really hard to. Now you can't resell that, right? So what Sephora does is then put it back on the shelf as a tester, perhaps. But if you don't like a product and you just want to throw it away, Sephora has come out with drop-off locations, so you can. And they collaborated with a company called TerraCycle that will recycle the products for you and disassemble all the components and everything. So it's a step towards the right direction. My curiosity and circularity is like how can we actually make Sephora a recycling company? Because everyone drops off all the product. It's all just there. So how do you make money from it, right? You can actually be a person that creates packaging in a sustainable way and make it more circular, so people drop things off and it just keeps on get recycled and then sent to manufacturer to put in new packaging. It's really an interesting avenue because I think people think of sustainability or circular economies of being wasteful and not economically viable. My idea in my studies is to find the economically viable solution and to make things profitable.
Are there any regulations or industry standards in those environments pushing for sustainability? Or is it still mostly optional?
Corporate sustainable responsibility, CSR, is really at the moment falling upon the businesses themselves. I think the biggest influence would be government to create policy. It really is a top-down approach. If you're not going to tell someone what to do, they're not going to do it out of their own goodwill if they're losing money doing it, right? So forcing people to create more sustainable packaging through policy is really a great way of innovating new design and new innovation in packaging. And you look at companies like Sway, who got a $1 million grant and found a solution to, Amazon's problems in a sense. I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon bought them. So it's creating those avenues, I think, through government support and policies and grants, is to enable universities as well to put money towards research and finding new solutions. It's hard for businesses to justify to their shareholders that we are putting aside $1 million to maybe find a solution to something.
So what's actually happening behind the scenes of a sustainable product development? What do most people not see, especially when it comes to shelf life or ingredients?
I want to make one more point on policies. With the New York, especially in New York City, studying, I did a whole month-long course on waste management, and they're part of the Trash Academy. And the biggest thing is to pass a policy to make manufacturers responsible for their own waste. And this forces manufacturers, i.e. beauty companies or industrial, companies, to find ways to be more responsible about their waste and how they get rid of it and how they recycle it. This would be the biggest thing that New York City could do, because New York City's waste, 70% of New York City's waste is industrial waste. So if they can find ways to reduce that through policy and making companies responsible for their own waste, would be a huge step towards circularity in New York City, or in New York State for that matter.
And I also think the beauty industry is very strong in always launching a new product, new formula, new, better, cooler design.
Yeah.
What shift do you think needs to happen there?
Yeah, Americans really are the consumers of the world, right? So that is really the culture of the world, of America. And so to change that culture is a big step to take. I think it is also partly, I think, education from the state and local governments, and on a countrywide, to educate people about where their waste goes. So when people see what is happening, they make more responsible choices. For example, New York City, I know it's not to do with beauty, but New York City now has implemented a zero tolerance on compostable waste. So your food waste, right? Because New York City's 30% of their CO2 emissions is food waste. So by telling New York City people, look, you can't throw away your food, you have to have it in your house and then put it in a compost bin, people are now starting to see how much food waste they have. So by seeing your waste, you realize, shit, I need to buy less. I don't need to buy so much food all the time, because I'm going to have to compost it. So, in a sense, for beauty, it might also be able to educate people on a consumer level. Look, you don't need every lipstick under the sun. They're all quite the same, and use it till you finish and then buy the next one. But this also decreases people's, business, their profit margin. So it's finding a balance between what's profitable and also at the same time what is, good for the environment. A good example of that is L'Octane, which is a French brand. They're B Corp certified, as well as Body Shop is B Corp certified. So you can trace everything in the company, where it was sourced, where it's going, employment, equitable employment, making sure where they get their raw material from is actually sustainably sourced, and also the workers are paid a fair wage, and the manufacturing standards are high. So those are also things to look out for as a consumer, is to look for B Corp certification, EcoVadis certification, that kind of thing.
What do these certifications mean, actually?
Yeah, B Corp certification means that it is a transparency from the company side, showing, look, we are sustainable, or and also it's encompassing more than just sustainability. It is treating your employees fairly, equal wage for female and males. For me as a makeup artist, knowing that it's being sourced sustainably, your minerals and the ingredients in your beauty, products. And then also the packaging is also sustainable. And a lot of them are actually completely made from paper, and is biodegradable. So when you get low-octane packaging, it's all paper. And then they will have plastic, but everything's plastic. So the bottle is more recyclable than having metal and plastic, or metal and glass together.
I know in Switzerland there was a big discussion I don't know what is going on right now. But there was a big discussion about in the food industry, in supermarkets, make very clear where the food was sourced, how it was transported and all that. So we do have now, when you buy strawberries, you would see where they are from, or for example, apples, you see if they are from Switzerland or from Africa, which I also found out doesn't really have to mean that the one from South Africa or from Africa is less sustainable than the one in Switzerland, depending on the time of the year and the amount of water they use. But do you think there's going to be a shift in the beauty industry also towards that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the beauty companies, I was at a packaging conference in New York, and they use manufacturing companies, even locally. And for example, L'Occitane has a supplier and manufacturer in the US, so to reduce the CO2 footprint, so not shipping things across oceans, and then also sourcing minerals from that. What is the company called? Sorry, it slipped my mind now. But they are actually a net zero manufacturing company, because they actually source the water from a water source that is not drinkable by humans, and so that actually is a resource that is not actually being able to use for anyone, but for this manufacturing, which is reduces their carbon footprint. YSL uses them as well. Chanel uses them as well. This is where you look for signs of like EcoVadis certification, and that's on manufacturing side, for sourcing, making sure that the manufacturer is actually sourcing correctly.
What are some of the biggest design challenges? You mentioned the pump, you mentioned the packaging material. What other challenges are really big in terms of developing a sustainable beauty product?
I think a lot of it has to do also with the clean versus organic. A clean product, in my own opinion, is just as good as an organic product, but if you have binding agents like titanium dioxide, or you use silicone, all of a sudden the product's not organic anymore. So I think in organic terms, like having the problem I see is for eyeshadows, for example, is that they are not, they're very loose because they're not allowed to use. I think the binding agent actually is titanium dioxide. I might be wrong, but the binding agent makes the product not organic, so they don't use it, but that also makes it break. So it's hard to find solutions when you're restricted by chemicals, in a sense that are not necessarily bad for you, but is not of organic nature. When it comes to sustainable packaging, I really think that in America particularly, I think Germany and perhaps Switzerland as well has done a really good job as implementing policies that really affect packaging and making manufacturers responsible for their waste. So it makes them redesign their packaging. A lot of beauty products have film on it that makes it shiny, so it looks nice on the shelf. But that then makes that paper not recyclable, because you actually put a layer of plastic on top of the paper. So making people aware of this, I don't even think sometimes companies are aware of that when they make the product. I think it'd be nice if the government came out with a page where, manufacturers can actually, or new companies, up and coming, designing product, can have some referencing as to what is the recycling facilities capability within the US. And I guess it's state by state as well, because each state is different. And that's also where all the difficulties come in the US, because it's not countrywide. It's on an individual basis. So they have to apply for 52 states or 51. And that's, I think, is one of the biggest problems for most design companies, is to design a product that is the most recyclable, but for who, and what state.
And what about, if we talk about recycling, we're now mainly talking about the packaging. And what about the product itself? When we, for example, an eyeshadow or a foundation or any kind of cream, does it make a huge difference in terms of in terms of recyclability, if it has chemicals in it or not? Like, what happens to an eyeshadow the moment I throw it in the bin?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in beauty is to make things recyclable, like the components. So in eyeshadow, you have a little silver tray that's in a plastic packaging. Then you have a mirror. So you already have three different, and you have the screws in the back to make it open and close. So that's a fifth component. So really making products that is maybe, I've seen them use plastic screws instead of metal screws, and designing the product so it is just one, because the eyeshadow itself is really not the problem. It's the little parts inside. So for example, in New York City, which I didn't know, they always say don't recycle pizza boxes, but you actually can recycle pizza boxes. Just don't put the pizza in it. A little bit of oil is okay, as long as you have an empty container. Don't throw away full containers of liquid and, full foundation bottles. So, if they are empty, it's way better to recycle as long as you take the components apart. In New York City, we have something called a dual stream recycling, which means when they pick up the recycling, you have glass and plastic go to one location and paper goes to a different location. So that's why you separate glass and plastic together. Different cities, different states have different rules and different recycling facilities. They might have a one stream facility, which means everything goes to the same location. So when you think that, I can just throw it into the same thing, please don't, because rather just Google real quick what kind of recycling facility a city has. It will make it way more easier for them to separate it, because you can ruin a whole batch of recycling just by putting something silly like plastic bottle into a paper, container.
I think that's a really good point you're making. I think we need more conversations about that as well. People start recycling, which is a good thing, but there is not enough consciousness about how much can go wrong or you can destroy by recycling wrong. I like the concept in Brazil. There's like one recycling container, or at least in Sao Paulo, that was like that. And you have to throw everything that's recyclable in there. And they have a team that separates everything correctly.
Yeah, so that's a single stream. So everything is going to the same location, right? When you deal with like Manhattan, which doesn't have a lot of space, things are going to different locations. Some of it's actually going to waste to energy, which is they burn it. Some is going to recycling. Some is going to a paper mill. So really, they're not sorting it in the same location, because of course Manhattan, and same as Sao Paulo, I'm sure, is like huge amount of waste. And so New York is really not set up for that as an island, to send everything to the same place. And I think as consumers, we should be aware of what our recycling facilities are looking like and what it does for us, because that will really educate us how to recycle. But in the bottom line, as we were talking the whole time, it's like trying to reduce our waste and not create landfill, because so little of it actually is usable in the end.
Just a quick reality check. If you're constantly over-delivering, working around the clock, and still chasing the right kind of projects, you're not alone. I keep meeting architects, interior designers, and contractors in that exact cycle, which is actually why we started Market Your Architecture. We help you reposition your work and get in front of more of the right people, so you can finally choose who you want to work with. If that sounds interesting to you and you want to know more about us, you'll find the link to marketyourarchitecture.com in the description. You mentioned before, organic is not the same as clean. Can you define the difference for me?
So clean is, it doesn't have PFAS in it, in the plastic, and it doesn't have silicones, or it doesn't have toxic chemicals for your skin. Whereas organic is like everything's made from organic material. So your lipstick could be crushed up ladybug skins, because that's organic, right? But as a person who don't want ladybugs in her lips for red lipstick, then maybe I prefer a cleaner product that uses a clean dye, maybe, but that dye might not be organic, but clean. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And can we talk about the shelf life as well? Because I think another aspect in beauty is I kind of have to buy a new product. Oftentimes my products it says this 6M or 12M or 3M, which in my understanding means from the moment I open it, I can keep it for 6 months. But oftentimes the products are kind of too big for me and they get bad before it's even finished. What can we do to improve that?
The US, actually, I don't think products expire per se, depending on which product you're referring to. I know SPF has expiration. As soon as it comes in contact with oxygen, it will start deteriorating. So you're not getting the SPF you need after, I think, about 1 year. When it comes to like lipstick, I mean, you can use it, until it's finished, but you can smell lipstick. It will start to smell like crayons. When it comes to mascara, when you pump oxygen into it, never pump your lipstick. Your mascara. It will start to break down and become brittle, right? It starts to dry out, basically. You can see these things, but with eyeshadows, they can last forever. You don't need to buy a new eyeshadow. If you feel it's contaminated, I spray alcohol on my eyeshadows and most of my beauty stuff because I, work on so many different people all the time. But for yourself, as an average consumer, I don't think, you have to worry so much about the contamination of your eyeshadows. Try to buy products that are pump action because there's no oxygen, so the product can't deteriorate. So especially foundations won't go off because you have a pump and there's no oxygen inside that container to make it go off. And then lipsticks, lip liners and stuff, you'll see they dry out and you're just going to have to buy a new one because it came in contact with oxygen and start to dry out eventually.
That's so interesting. So that's just kind of a myth of the beauty industry, that beauty products expire.
I don't think it's a myth. It depends on, what product one is referencing. It's like saying, what is your favorite beauty line? It's kind of difficult because each company has something very specific that's good about it. And the same, it goes for the expiration. I'm like, what product are you referring to? Example again with SPF, as soon as you open it, you have like, I think 6 months to a year before it really loses its efficacy. So you'll still have it. It's not toxic to you, but you're going to burn.
So if I were to walk into Sephora today and buy new beauty products, what are 3 non-negotiables you think I should consider to make the most sustainable choice while still having a nice experience of buying a beautiful product that's going to last?
There's not a lot of beauty companies out there that are sustainable because it is quite expensive to do it. But if you find a company that is really focusing on sustainable packaging, you know that they are also focusing on really good ingredients in their products because they are taking the initiative to do something that is not profitable to themselves, right? They're doing something that is ethically correct for them and what they think the consumer would want. So finding a company that, for example, is B Corp certified shows you that the company really wants to do good by community and society and also the environment. And you can trust their product because it would be high quality product. And then in Sephora, I know they don't necessarily have B Corp certified companies in there. I'm not sure, but you can see the clean sign. And it's really doing a bit of research just to, I like to go and test things for a little bit. And then I write the name down and go home and like look it up a bit and review it a little bit. Like you say, the product's going to last a long time. So you really want to make sure like what you're buying is not only good product, but also aligns with your values as a customer.
That's a good tip to just go test, take a moment, take conscious decisions. I think our society it's become so normal to buy instantly and more and 2 products because it's cheaper than one, especially in the US. I see they often advertise with, why don't you buy 2? It's cheaper than 1. Yeah, I just need 1. Yeah, but it's cheaper.
Yeah. And also don't take the samples at the register. They always say, do you want a sample? And you're like, those are just, landfill. Most people don't use it anyway. And the amount that it's in there is not going to help you understand the product anyway.
You once said that your dream was to lead sustainability at Sephora. If you were in charge tomorrow, what would you change first?
I'll make Sephora responsible for their own waste. Won't make me very popular, I think. Sephora is part of LVMH. I think as consumers, we should also think about the bigger picture of things. It's not just the single person's waste. It's just on a manufacturing scale. You walk into Sephora, it is all landfill. That's a huge amount of product. How many Sephoras? I think it's like 2,000 Sephoras in the US. It's an $8 billion company. If that company can make some kind of initiative, and I'm sure there is lots in the works that I don't know about and requirements for being part of Sephora, it would take so much off the plate of the rest of, and also set an example for other companies joining into the beauty industry. I think really Sephora is a leading figure and can set a huge example for companies to follow, in my opinion. So if I was working there, I would try to set an examples for people to follow and make it easier for companies to be sustainable. I would make Sephora a recycling company on top of a beauty company. There would be so much more money. I'm always into like, how can we make money from our waste? You're just throwing things away and you're paying someone to pick it up. I mean, there must be a better solution or profitable solution for that waste.
And how do you see AI playing a role in optimizing recycling or tracking sustainability metrics?
Oh, I mean, it's already in there. I mean, even in New York City, because we have the dual system, I mean, it all goes to the same location. AI is picking out plastic versus glass, separating things, even in the metal facility, in the industrial recycling facility that they have there in Queens as well. A lot of AI is implemented to separate waste from each other. That's why you can, in Sao Paulo, throw everything into one bin.
You mentioned a good point with saying Sephora is part of LVMH. Do you see a difference in the standards of, let's say, Sephora might be rather a fast fashion or cheaper brand with more cheaper products in a way, or easier to acquire? Do you see a difference between cheaper brands, fast fashion, and luxury high-end fashion or beauty products?
I think we would circle back to consumer behavior and, influencing consumers to make better choices and giving them better options. So making sustainable products that are so convenient that is the best option. That throwing it in the trash is actually harder work than throwing it in the compost in your apartment building. It's just creating the convenience for the consumer to be sustainable anyway. It's just would be the way it would be because it would be the easiest way to do it. And that comes from LVMH side, is designing products that are sustainable and ethical. And if you talk about fast fashion, that's again changing consumers' behaviors, the idea of how to shop, but in the same breath, gaining more profit for LVMH in a different thing. So let's say LVMH actually becomes the recycling partner of America or of New York City and just creates recycling solutions. So now all of a sudden all their partners are recycling their product. None of it's going to waste, creating new product from that. Now you're creating huge amount of new revenue stream for LVMH, not just for Sephora. When I started studying this, I was like, oh, I want to find the sustainable solutions. I need to know more in beauty. And then I went to MIT and I was like, oh boy, I'm like, how do we can make LVMH sustainable? And then I was like, well, if it's a company, how can we make a country sustainable? New York City. And then it was a country. And I'm like, now I'm sitting in Namibia trying to figure out how can we make, Namibia circular because we only have 2 million people. I mean, it must be pretty easy to do that. But is it profitable? Because no one's going to do it if it's not profitable.
Have you seen a shift in what celebrities ask for behind the scenes?
I think we all want to leave the world a better place than we got it. may it be a celebrity or an individual. And so I think anyone would want to ask, do you have anything sustainable in your kit? Currently in my job, it's just a little bit of a high stress environment because you only have a limited time. And by the time you get to the job, people are already expecting you to have the right products and represent the values of the person you're working with. And I hope that I reflect that. It's very hard, again, in beauty. I try to do it through, even my mascara wands have wood at the end, but the front piece is plastic. I'm trying to do little things where I can. I just found a mascara that's not in a tube. You just wet it and you put it on your eyelashes. I'm like, okay, that's a cool little product, So finding those products and helping them, making actually celebrities aware of all these new products that are out there. Just as other companies send me things, I try to bring that awareness in my day-to-day job. I don't think anyone's actually requested a sustainable, maybe a clean kit. So I try to go for clean and sustainable where I can.
And how about in fashion shows? Are the standards higher in terms of sustainable requirements?
Yeah, I think London Fashion Week actually did a complete sustainable fashion week. You had to meet certain requirements to be part of Fashion Week this year. I think perhaps New York will follow suit in some manner. I always think that Europe takes the lead on sustainability more than the US, just because of their type of consumer they have are more sustainably aware, due to their government making them aware of it,
And do you think sustainability and luxury can go together in the beauty industry? Or do you think whatever's branded as sustainable is kind of in people's minds can't really go together with luxury?
No, I think it goes hand in hand. I mean, a lot of consumers want to spend money on sustainable luxury. We can take Carolina Herrera, for example, who I've worked with, the CEO and the head designer. They want to create a division that is made from recycled fabric, for their clientele. So that is a high-end brand that is doing that. And then when it comes to handbags, source their leather sustainably. There's a lot of companies taking offcuts and actually making high-end stuff from it. So I really do think there's a market for it. In the end, everything's about marketing. And if you have an incredible product, people are going to buy it no matter the price.
That's true. And Carolina Herrera is actually a good example. I got a beautiful lipstick from my mom for Christmas, which is so beautiful that I'm going to keep it forever, and that it can be like a Christmas gift, and it's not just a lipstick you buy randomly.
Yeah.
And it has this kind of importance that I'm not going to throw it away.
Special. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Valentino doing the lipsticks that are refillable. I'm not too sure what they're doing within their fashion department, but I'm sure that is spread across. I think Valentino Beauty is actually owned by a different company. But it's definitely spreading within in fashion. I mean, a lot of people have places where you can drop off clothing and upcycle it. I was just in Japan, and in the shopping mall, they had the upcycle store. You could just bring your stuff and they would make new stuff for you with it, which was pretty cool. And the same with sneakers. There was a sneaker store. You bring it and they just paint something new on it for you, and it was all for Nikes. So, it's slowly, it is all out there. I don't want people to think that it's doom and gloom when it comes to waste and what we're doing to the environment. There's so many new things on the horizon. For example, the Sway company with the seaweed packaging. There's, in construction, so much happening in manufacturing of concrete and, moss bricks, moss concrete. And here in Namibia, it's actually the MIT team created bricks from an invasive tree that then grew mushrooms, and then they made mushroom bricks that builds buildings, and it's fire resistant. And there's so much happening in the back end. It's just trying to give enough funds to these companies or research institutions to then go even further and develop products that, for the beauty company, for example. But it has to have a demand as well. So as consumers, I think it's important, if you're buying a product, you have to voice your concern about sustainability. It's like, I only want to buy products that are sustainable. The more we demand from manufacturers and companies, the more they will provide for us, you know. For example, back in the day, you know, they used to just pump out pollution into rivers from steel companies. They don't do that anymore because, you know, society demands better. So we as society should demand better from the companies that provide products to us. And we actually have the vote, you know, vote with your wallet, buy things that are sustainable, and they'll make more of it.
You mentioned marketing before. We've talked about the role of legislation and the government. What do you think if every celebrity stopped promoting beauty products for, let's say, a year? What do you think would change?
That's not going to happen. It would make a big impact, but again, it's not economically viable. No one's doing anything unless it's not economically viable. I mean, there's a fashion brand that's made completely from, it's a workout brand called Active, and they're made from plants. So it's like the Lululemons, but, you know, sustainable. I don't know if it's biodegradable, probably biodegradable if you put it in a compost, but definitely better than wearing plastic all day. You know, there's brands like Rothy's and Sava, that shoe brands that make shoes from recycled plastic. It's just trying to find ways to keep your waste in the system and repurposing it and reusing it. We don't have to remake new plastic. We have enough plastic in the environment. We just need to find ways to remake things with it and just keep on recycling it and repurposing it, so we don't have to make more of it. The resources of Earth is finite, and we're going to run out of it eventually. So we need to, you know, as a country or globally, find ways to reduce what we take from Earth, so we can stagger our output more, because we're going to run out, right? So we have to save for future generations.
It's so interesting to see how our industries are actually quite similar. It's about a product that lasts long, made with sustainable materials, the manufacturing process, transportation, the marketing, the flexibility in usage in a way is also something that's relevant to you. It's so interesting to see how we're all working on the same things.
Yeah. And even in beauty, it doesn't have to last long because you're going to finish it. So I like to use this brand called Native. They have deodorants that are clean and completely sustainable and biodegradable. It's just paper and it's my deodorant. But, you know, I don't need a deodorant packaging that's going to last forever. I'm just going to throw it in the trash after, and it's just be completely disintegrated. And, you know, eventually it would take a little while because it's paper, but it's not plastic that lasts hundreds of years or 1,000 years. I think it's a plastic bottle, which is insane.
I guess products like, these spray deodorants, the aluminium doses, if they are not recycled, that's probably one of the worst packagings there is.
Absolutely. And producing aluminium is the most recyclable product, which is great. You're getting about $300 a ton in profit recycling, whereas plastic is negative, or glass is negative $100 a ton to recycle. And so that's why government steps in and says, oh, we'll give you 10 cents for every glass bottle. Otherwise, people are just going to throw it in the trash. And aluminium, like you said, the actual creation, or how you say, the manufacturing of aluminium, not just the recycling of it, it's quite toxic. You have a lot of water with chemicals in it that, you know, they pump into rivers, and which they shouldn't. And it's finding sustainable ways in that matter would have a huge impact for the environment, for sure. And finding ways, like L'Oreal actually has a facility, I think it's in Mexico. It's definitely in South America, but I might be wrong if I said Mexico. They use all their water, and their manufacturing facility is completely circular. So they reuse all their water in their manufacturing facility. You know, it's using things like this that will really affect change in the future.
I entered this conversation thinking I was going to learn about the beauty industry, but I learned more about waste and recycling than I ever thought. Liz,
Oh my
what's
gosh, I'm so sorry. Ask me another beauty question,
No.
but yeah.
No, that's fantastic. So what's one mindset shift or one thing you wish more people had about beauty and sustainability?
I think it's just to research a little bit more before you buy something. There's a lot of companies, even in Mexico, there's a company called Aero that everything's made from aluminium, every container. So it's just one product and it's highly recyclable. And they have great products. Educating yourself about standards and beauty that aligns with your values. B Corp certification, EcoVadis certification, using FSA paper. If you look at packaging in the back, you'll see a company's standards of, the bunny certificate. They're using recycled paper, and then all these certifications for manufacturing. These companies are really putting a foot forward and being an example for future companies. And you'll know that that product in that bottle is really good, because if they've gone through all of that effort for that, the actual product is actually really good. So actually, by going for these companies and supporting these companies, you're actually benefiting yourself with a high quality product.
That's a fantastic point. Thank you so much, Liz. If our listeners want to follow your work, see where this is going, where can they find you?
Yes, I'm Lizzo Makeup on all social media. And I also have a My Shop where you can buy everything that's sustainable and clean and beauty. And it's on myshop.com, Lizzo Makeup. I'll send you the link and you can add it if you like. So I wanted to make it more easier when clients ask me, what is this product? Where can I get this product? For people to shop and find sustainable and clean products, for them to, feel like they're doing the ethical thing for themselves, to shop clean and sustainable. It's easier and accessible.
Oh, that's very cool. I'll definitely link it in the description of the episode so people can find that there. Thank you very much, Liz. It's been wonderful.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. If you want to talk more about makeup, call me.
A huge thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you listen to the podcast to support me and so you don't miss an episode. And while you're there, I'd also be so grateful if you could rate and review us. If you have any guest suggestions or any feedback, you can find me on the socials at LatinaShip. Thanks.